focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risks.
That's a good intro, though.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I have a recorded intro already. So okay, let me start over. Welcome to the Wealth on the Beach podcast. My name is Daniel Alonzo. As always, I'm your host. I'm bringing you some of the greatest minds. We're talking business, we're talking money, we're talking life and success. And today I have the honor and privilege of interviewing the awesome Paul Kruger. Is that how I say it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And Paul Kruger is an award-winning film director living in LA, California, Los Angeles, good old sunny California. Paul has been creating and producing films and digital content for over 10 years and is currently directing, producing, and editing the series Man of Action. And so we're going to have a little conversation. I'm excited. But hey, look, I want you to know, man, I love the movies. I mean, movies are some of the most favorite things for me to do in my spare time. And so tell me about, what's the Man of Action? What's that all about?
Yeah, so this is actually inspired by my dad because we were, I was home and it was during college. And I think it was during like a winter break during college. And somebody was like parked outside or like across our lawn. And they were there for a couple days. And after a while, like my parents were like, oh, should we like call the police? Like there's like a mysterious car that keeps parking outside our house. And then like after a certain amount of time, my dad was like, that's it. I'm going out there and I'm solving this right now. But he doesn't do anything. He just calls us like, yes, officer, there's a car parked outside our house. We're just curious as to what it could be. The police come and it was just like a random thing. It wasn't anything big deal. And then when the police get there, my dad's like, that's it. I'm going outside. I'm taking care of this right now. And my mom's like, you see that, Paul? Your dad, he's a man of action. And I'm like, wow, like, that was an inspirational performance. And then from there, like we had the idea of Man of Action for probably a year and a half. And like we had written some stuff for it. And we really wanted to turn it into a film. And then it was just in a weird way, like COVID was this perfect opportunity where a lot of like the work we were doing, which is on set, on production at, Universal Studios, Warner Brothers Studios, Sony, like all that's postponed. So I'm like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity for us to just go into production and just roll out this series because everybody was just very available for work all of a sudden.
So that's kind of how it started. So we're going to talk more about that. And I want you to tell us everything about kind of what you guys are doing right now. Excited about that. But before I always like to kind of get to know the people that I'm hanging with here. And so where did you grow up? Did you grow up in LA or?
No, so originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, grew up there, started shooting films when we were 16. I think it was like our way of just like, it was a fun hobby. It kept us out of trouble. And then I ended up going to film school in 2013 at Temple University. And then throughout that, like I was in film school and it was me and all these like kids. And I was like, man, I don't know, like is this film thing going to work? Like I had my doubts about it. I was like, is this film thing going to work out? Like, what does a career look like in film? So then I actually was like, let me switch to the business school, learn a lot more about money and success and finance. Ended up doing, like, I was very driven, but like the college system and like doing well in school and taking these like long lectures was just not like my way of like learning. So I ended up taking a gap year from school, met this really great guy who was like doing well. He made 6 figures first year after college, built a network marketing company for like $60K a year while he was in college. And I was like, oh, I'm hanging out with this guy. And he was like, yeah, well, I'm selling real estate now. And I was like, fantastic. Got my real estate license, started selling real estate for 6 months, closed on over $500,000 of real estate my first 6 months in Philadelphia. And made it out in the real world, like a little bit, like I got some good results. And I was like, but I really love filmmaking and creating films. So I want to see if I can finish my degree. I needed 1 more year to finish my film degree. And they had a program at Temple where they send us out to Los Angeles to study for a semester. So the way I planned it out was for my final semester of school that summer, I'd go to Los Angeles. We were taking classes in Raleigh studios. We were going and doing these like great internships and great courses and all this like really, really great stuff. And I was just so committed that I was like, I'm staying in Los Angeles. Like I'm not leaving LA. Like I'm staying in LA. I'm making movies, and like that's my thing. Like that is my zone. That's where I specialize in. And and it's worked out.
It's worked out pretty good. You're doing great right now, man. I mean, as far as like what did your parents do? What do they do for a living?
Yeah, so they're both now they're both retired, but my grandfather started a company 55 years ago, and then 12 years ago my dad took over as the CEO, and then 2 years ago my dad ended up selling the company. So my mom was working as a nurse, and she was always working as well, but now they're in a position where both of them are retired, which is just great for them. And then now my dad's just like playing music because he's been playing music for 35 years, and now he gets to just do that all the time. So I feel like it definitely came from an entrepreneurial background. And I feel like that just has its advantages in like the real world, because a lot of people are like, just looking for a job or looking for somebody else to give them an opportunity, where we're here just creating our own opportunities and just building it from the ground up. So
I love how you said that, right? We're here creating our own opportunities. And that is the key to success. Is you got to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and you just go and you figure it out. Like I always tell my guys, you got to shoot and then aim, and you figure it out as you're going, right? Jump out the building and learn how to fly on your way down, right? And so were you a good kid growing up, or were you a bad kid growing up? Like, how did you do in high school and things like that?
I was like a good kid. I think I was like really good at like just talking. So I was really able to get everybody kind of like on my side to be like, oh yeah, we like this guy. What a great guy. And then in school, I was like I was in like the honors classes, but I was always a very like average, like 3.0 student. And a lot of my energy went into like this stuff outside of school, which was like creating YouTube content. And we were having our videos playing on the morning announcements. And we gained like a lot of popularity because like we were making these videos and we got pretty good at it. And when I was a kid in high school, I actually took one of the walls of my bedroom and I painted it like bright green and made a green screen. And then I would pull lamps from like around my house. And we would like, after school, we would go and shoot on the green screen. And then we would upload these videos, and like the whole school would watch it during the morning announcements. And this was for like 3 years. We were just kind of doing all we could to get on the morning announcements. And it was just, we just learned. And the equipment we started with was just nothing. Like, we started with like a flip camera that was like $100, and like free editing softwares on the computer. And it was just so much like this super organic process. And we just had so much fun doing it. And, we just love seeing ourselves on like TV and stuff. So we're like, yeah, like let's keep it rolling. And I was definitely a good kid. I think I did get in like a little bit of trouble because there was a social side of it that was like, yeah, like the partying and stuff was fun for a while. Definitely found a way to like balance that really well. I mean, I definitely made my mistakes growing up, but overall, like it was just these fantastic learning experiences. And yeah, and then I feel like that a lot of like the stuff I learned then, like I'm still applying to today, and I'm like looking forward to just making more mistakes, because I'm like, I know that there are these really important lessons that are only gained through the experience. So,
And so, talking about mistakes, were there mistakes that you made that looking back, you're like, shit, I shouldn't have done that, or man, I can't believe I did that? Did you have some challenges?
yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of the challenges for me came in like college, because our hometown was just it was such a nice bubble. Everything was great, and we had these great friends and these great families, and everything was great. And then going to college, I was like, I need to navigate my way through. And a lot of the mistakes was just deciding on like, and getting really clear with like, what are my goals? What are my intentions? And I remember being in college, and I was just like this broke, busted, disgusted college kid my junior year. And I was like, man, this is terrible. Like, I'm just like, my grades are bad. Like I'm working like 1 day a week. So all this stuff. And I was like, I'm going to get really serious. And I was just Googling like how to make money on YouTube and like how to be successful. And it started this great collection where I started buying all these books, and like I essentially was just like, no more like partying. I'm gonna like lock myself in my room. And I bought like 40 books that year and just started reading. And it was like Napoleon Hill, Robert Kiyosaki, Bob Proctor, like all these Grant Cardone, like all these guys, and Gary Vee. I was just absorbing this content and I still am, like I'm still actively reading these books all the time. And that helped me make so many breakthroughs to just be like, okay, like because it was something, and I know you can relate to this, but like in school, like I remember being in college and I'm like, damn, like if I want to make $1 million a year, like I got to be learning from these people who are making $1 million a year. And a lot of like the teachers growing up, I mean, fantastic people, and the college professors, I was like, they were great people, but like I want to learn how to make, you know, $1, 2, 3, $10 million a year. So it's like, where do I learn that from? And it was like, oh, these books of these people who have done it, or these podcasts, or following these people on Instagram who are really successful, and like just absorbing their content and engaging with their content. And I'm still doing it like to this day.
And so you have like a favorite book, like a book that you look back and you go, man, that's my favorite one. Do you have one?
Yeah, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Like I'm still actively like in my car, like I'm listening to it all the time. It's always playing, like, because every time I listen to it, I hear something that I hear something new. Like every time I listen to it, like I'm changing. So the way I'm interpreting the book is changing as well. So it's like I'm constantly plugging that in, and it's it's so beneficial.
I love that, because you remind me of me. That, I mean, as far as like all the thing, I mean, we're in different professions, but just the whole genesis of like how things kind of worked itself out, you know. I was reading Think and Grow Rich, right? 21 years old. I was listening to tapes by Jack Canfield when I was like 14 years old. I mean, I was still doing bad things. I still got in a lot of trouble and all that kind of stuff in my teen years. But man, it's like, you know, it's the same process. And people stop learning after college. They stop reading after college. They stop trying to get better. And the reason why you're going to be one of the most successful film directors in the world is simply because you are manifesting all of it in your mind. And you have such a huge advantage. I mean, you are personally being taught by Napoleon Hill. I mean, give me a break, right? One of the most successful, you know, interviewers of successful people, you know, took the formula for having massive amounts of wealth in your life. You're getting mentored from that guy. And that's what I think I want people that are listening and watching right now to understand, that is that, you know, you pour the information. The better the information goes in, the better, you know, stuff that comes out, and we should be very conscious about that. And so who was that first mentor, and why was that, you know, how did he really help you?
So the first mentor I had was this guy, Jeff Combs. And Jeff Combs was like the millionaire mentor, and I found him because I was doing network marketing for a while, just as a way to like get in entrepreneurship. Robert Kiyosaki recommended network marketing. I said, sure, I'll go all in on it. And I remember hiring Jeff Combs, and I was bussing tables at a restaurant, and Jeff Combs was like, Paul, you can hire me for $3,000. And I was like, Jeff, like I'm making like, I was like, I'm bussing tables at a restaurant. And he was like, yeah, so, and I was like, yeah, he's right. So like I spent that entire summer, and I saved up to hire Jeff Combs. And I remember like, I was like, Jeff, I will hire you by, you know, August 1st of this summer. And like, I just had never worked like I did that summer. And then just investing that money like into myself. I think one, it was fantastic spending the time with Jeff Combs, who just had a ton of value, and he had books and courses and seminars, which I was just like, you know, obsessed with, and just absorbing all the information. But I feel like also like the universal like signature of like taking like this hard-earned money that I worked and reinvesting it like into myself and into like a mentor, like with the intention of just improving and becoming as successful as I can be. Like that was really like the turning point where I was like, man, all right, I'm really going in with this, and I'm really serious and committed to it. And Jeff Combs is fantastic, still connected with him, still follow him on social media. And it's interesting, even with you, Daniel, like I consider you a mentor too, because like I'm following your content, I'm engaging with your content, and your intensity and your commitment and your work ethic and your consistency is why I feel like so many people are is your brand's growing really well. And like, it's because of those reasons. And I'm super happy when you reached out to do the podcast. I was like, oh, absolutely. I'm like, this guy Daniel's a stud. Like he's so successful. I'm like, absolutely.
Well, I you know what I'm excited about too, you know, when you're talking right now, and you're such a great inspiration and a great young person to follow. And how old are you, by the way?
25.
25. And so you're such a great young mind to follow, because, and I hope everybody follows you, by the way, on Instagram and YouTube, making great videos and things like that, and movies but what's awesome is that when you're talking, you're like just so naive. You know what I mean? And me too, right? And I'm just telling you, because that's why you remind me of me, because like I was that kid, right? 21 years old, and my coach, my mentor, he would say, do this. And I'd be like, oh, okay, shit, I'll do it. Yeah. Well, what am I going to argue with that guy? That guy makes millions of dollars a year, and I'm making $7 an hour at my job. Why the hell would I doubt what he's telling me to do? And on top of all that, he had a vested interest in me, right? Like he wanted me to be really successful, because as you know, my structure of my company is, he makes more money when I make more money. And so I'm like, I'm going to listen to this guy. I'm going to do everything he tells me to do. He told me to read books. I read books. He told me to go to seminars. I went to seminars. He told me to go to Anthony Robbins. I went to Anthony Robbins. He told me to read Tom Hopkins. I read Tom Hopkins. I did everything. This is the difference. This is the difference of why some people make it and some people don't. And so do you agree with that?
100%. And I feel like it was, again, I had that realization where I was like, all right, this guy's making 7 figures a year, 8 figures a year. I'm like, I need to learn, whatever they say, I will just blindly listen to, because they have so much credibility. And I feel like if I want to get the results, I've got to shift my way of thinking to their way of thinking, to be like, oh, they're most likely very accurate about their philosophies. And I think that's what it was the philosophy shifting. And but it was something where I didn't know, not knowing the answers, and then hearing an answer and being like, oh wait, I didn't know that piece of information, but now I can apply that to everything that I do. And I feel like that was yeah, and I'm still molding my mind and looking to learn and grow more, because I think that's what the great part about life is that progress, and just keep moving forward and keep progressing. I think it's just this obsession, and I'm just going to my goal is to be 95 years old and just be hammering out work, and just be super productive and on these huge feature film sets, and still winning awards when I'm, in my 90s, and even in my hundreds. I want to live to 180,
That's crazy. Shit, that's really ambitious. I thought I was ambitious. I was going for 120, man. Damn. All right. So what was your first movie project, and how did it impact you?
So it was great. And I feel like what's great is a lot of people see, and they're like, oh, this is the first big project that I've done yet. Going deep on YouTube, it's we have videos from 2012, 2000, movies that were made. And it's cool that now it's compounding, and it's okay, now that I've got this catalog, it really was me getting out of my own way and being okay, I'm making movies and I'm pushing these to the public so everybody can see them. And I think COVID was a perfect time, and really for everybody, moving to LA now, there's access to people who are actors, professional actors. The actors we're working with, who are my close friends now, have been on HBO, they're on Ballers, they're on Amazon Prime, Netflix, even some really big YouTube shows. And it's great because it's okay, now we're getting some really talented people in these movies. Before, it was just this backyard filmmaking with my best friends. We would just make films. And then it's they weren't, that was another thing, was when I wanted to move to LA, I had a group of friends who loved making films with me, but they weren't really willing to pay that price and move across the country for their goals and their dreams. They kind of stayed in their own thing, and they're great people, they're fantastic people. But I was really the one who was I'm going to take this risk, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to stay committed, I'm going to be really persistent, and I'm going to make it happen. But releasing this Man of Action thing is just come at the perfect time, and we still have 2 episodes left, and fantastic feedback from everybody, and I'm just super happy to do it.
I'm excited. I'm excited for you, man. And by the way, just so you know, I was in Pretty Woman, the movie Pretty Woman. Did you know that? Yeah, I was in Pretty Woman. I was an extra. I used to do extra work when I was young, probably 14 years old or something like that. I was in a bunch of different TV shows, Quantum Leap, Charles in Charge. And so, but I was just extra. I always did just extra work. And so, but I love the movies. I love, the process of it. I love how they make you feel. And I want to kind of dive into that a little bit with the time that we have. I want to kind of talk about what's your process for making a movie, and what do you think, why do you think movies are so important to our communities?
I think movies are important to the communities because it gives people this wonderful like escape from, the stress of the world. And I think the perfect way I can put it is I was actually on the show Let's Make a Deal with Wayne Brady, and I got chosen as to like play the game and like see if I could win money, and I ended up winning $2,000 on Let's Make a Deal, which was awesome. And this was a really interesting thing because what they did was they took all the winners from that day and they brought us into a room after they had finished the show. And they're like, yeah, you guys think this is just like a game show and it's cool that you won, money and cars and stuff. But what you don't understand is like, there's somebody who's like, in a hospital room and like their glimpse of like hope that day is at 30 minutes when they turn on the TV and they watch that show. And like, that's like what they're living for. And like, they love this show and they follow that show. And that's really what's like keeping some people alive, is because they really enjoy that. So for us to be a part of that process, like we don't even understand that like who's actually watching and who it could be really helping. And again, it's people who are like, maybe they just lost a family member and they're really going through a tough time. And then they're able to just turn on, a show that they love or a movie that they love and go into this escape where they're visualizing themselves as these characters and really connecting with the people on the screen. And it's just like that, I think, is like the power of movies, is it gives people that, that like freedom and that escape from their lives where they're like, oh man, like, you see these cool like superheroes in the movies or these really great, funny, charismatic people on screen, and you fall in love with them, you connect with them. And it's this experience that kind of takes you out of like the, the problems that you're dealing with in the real world. And I think that was where I was like, oh wow, we're actually making like an impact on like people who watch this. Like it's making a difference.
And so do you think leadership has, is there a place in leadership in directing a movie? I mean, do you have to be a leader to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like the important thing is like having a vision and believing in the vision, because a lot of people will feed off your energy and your belief, and they'll be like, okay, this guy's like, he knows exactly what he wants. He knows where he's going. Like he's described his vision for us. Like we know what he's looking for. And a lot of people just want to be a part of it because it's almost like that thing where it's like, it's just this moving train and people just want to take it to the promised land. So it's like, if you can sit and conduct that train and drive that thing forward, people will just flood the seats. Everybody will enjoy that. And I think a breakthrough for me that I had with Man of Action was in film school, they were teaching us like, okay, you've got to hire, like the director has to then bring on an assistant director, a cinematographer. You need a sound guy, you need a lighting guy. And they're essentially saying as like a 21-year-old kid, like, okay, you need a crew of, 15 to 20 people to make a movie. And I remember being like, I don't know, like I feel like I can do like this process so efficiently, just like independently. And it was like some of the best films that were made, at least in film school, was like from the kids who just had all of those skills. So I think a lot of the leadership is just having the skills to actually perform each of the tasks, like writing the script, directing it, casting the actors, running the camera, doing cinematography. And then it's like on set, like finding the locations, like having the money to fund it, which luckily it was just self-funded, but we've even found like executive producers and investors, and that's been great. And then like the icing on the cake is the editing and then like the final edit. And I feel like my advantage is like I'm able to do all of that process. And previously, because of film school, I was like, oh, I need to be, hiring people to do these things for me. I need to be hiring like a camera guy and an editor. And I think for certain projects, yes. But then there's also situations where it's like, I like to just kind of put it on my shoulders and be like, if this project succeeds or fails, it's 100% my fault and my responsibility. So then it was just, and I feel like that's why Man of Action's going so well, is because I was like, I'm staying so true to my vision because I'm doing every step of the process because I have all these skills to do every single step of the filmmaking process. Like a lot of the actors are just like, they just act and they can be fantastic at it and make a wonderful career out of it. And that's fantastic. When it comes like the full, like I look at it like a business, like I've got to know every single step of the process and I've got to be able to perform it well. And I feel like that's really, and it's like an educational thing. As we're making these movies, like I'm learning and growing more as a filmmaker, as a director, as a producer. And now I'm getting hired as a producer.
I think that it's also important, as we kind of, meld it into like, an entrepreneur, right? A business owner, somebody that's in business for themselves. You got to know all the pieces of your business. And you have to be successful in all of your pieces of your business. I mean, like for example, in my business, you got to know how to sell. You got to know how to lead. You got to know, and then look, there's another part is you got to know how to manage money. You got to be able to know how to budget. You got to know how to control costs to keep the business alive. Just like in the movie business, you got to be able to control costs to keep the movie alive, right? I mean, there's probably a lot of movies that are sitting, all dusty, never got put out because they ran out of money, right? I mean, there's stuff like that happens. Same thing with an entrepreneur. These guys make a bunch of money. Like think about it, all these people that made money. I mean, it's unbelievable to me, when we had the last downturn in 2008, 2009, and I saw, and in 2006, everybody was buying big homes and, Ferraris and thinking they were so rich. And then boom, the next thing you know, because they didn't manage their money, they were out of business. And I never wanted that to happen to me. I always wanted to make sure I controlled my costs. I always wanted to make sure that I mastered my craft. I knew my shit, right? Because if you know your stuff and you're good at it, it doesn't matter what happens. Like, for example, the kind of business that I'm in, I lead a lot of people. Well, what happens if these people stop working? What happens if a lot of these people stop doing, granted my organization's pretty big today, but in the beginning, right, when I was getting this thing going, imagine if I only had 10 guys and 8 of them decided to quit, right? Where am I that, so I have to know my stuff well enough where I could step up to the plate and go to work and get results and keep my family alive, right? Keep my family afloat if everybody goes to crap. Now, thank God that never happened to me, but it could. And I think that's what helped me become successful is because I always mentally prepared for that situation. And I over-prepared, I overworked so that I ensured the success versus hoped the success would come. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I can relate to that. Like, that's exactly what I feel like I'm doing with these movies is where it's like up until, an hour before we release the film, like I'm constantly just working on the film, knowing that like it's on me. Like the success of this stuff is 100%, I'm 100% responsible for it. Another thing I think you'd like is I've created my own budget template because like going on a Google Sheets, because like my fear going into film was like, how do I make a career out of it? So then in my mind, I was like, well, I definitely like financial success is a really important goal and I'm absolutely committed. And I feel like, okay, let me build a budget because I feel like whatever happens, like I've been sticking to this budget where I'm tracking my income every single day. I've got room for 7 streams of income. And then I'm tracking like my expenses and budgeting and doing that really intelligently where I feel like a lot of other people are just winging it. And I'm like very calculated, even going into making these movies. Now it's like, I recently invested like a lot into my own camera gear, which is like a very calculated thing. And now that allows me where I don't have to spend as much to make the movies and we can make more movies and I can do them faster because I've got my own equipment. But for me, like that was so important early on. And it was actually like Dave Ramsey helped me with that, which is just like going through and like doing a budget and I'm, doing his baby steps and like finding like a system. Like for me, it helps so much to find a system. And I've just been applying that and it's just helped me. Like this year has been a fantastic, like a breakthrough year for me financially. And I feel like it's because of the compound of like consistently, like every time, I go to the grocery store, I'm buying groceries. Right when I walk out of that store, I'm typing it in my budget. Like, okay, this is how much I spend. Like I'm meticulous with it. And it's served me as a filmmaker and a creator because it's like, I no longer have to worry and stress about that because I'm so organized.
Well, guess what? Down the road, when you start asking for money, right? When from investors and you want to raise money for a film or something like that. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to send them this podcast and you're going to say, hey, listen to this podcast because this is what I do, and because look, the truth is that the reason why you're going to become mega, mega successful one day, Paul, is because you are, you're somebody that people are going to be able to trust. And trust is so critically important. Like, I think what helped me in my success is that my people knew that I was always going to show up. They knew I was going to be there. They knew that I was financially okay. They knew that I was willing to work the hardest. They knew I was willing to show up early, stay late. They knew I was willing to pay the price with them. So they decided to follow me. And so you're that kind of guy where, as a potential investor in the future for you, right? I might be an investor for you one day. And the truth is that I would invest in a guy like you because you are meticulous when it comes to your finances, making sure that you're going to stay on budget, making sure that you're going to make good choices. Because look, anybody can make one film, but if you blow it, you might not get a shot at making another one. Do you know what I mean? Like, or at least, having a big budget, another one, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of directors, right, that they come in, they do a shitty job, they're disorganized, they don't do what they say they're going to do, they show up late to the set, blah, 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 whatever. They're gone, and they'll never, and it's very difficult to have a second chance, especially in your business. So I'm letting you know as somebody that's, had a little bit of success, is that you're doing all the right things, man. You should be very, very proud of yourself, man. So, hey, look, what I want to do, the last thing I want you to do is kind of tell us what that vision is for you in your life. I mean, I'm kind of excited talking to you because I feel like, I get to keep this on record forever. And one day when you're the next Steven Spielberg or something like that, I'm gonna be like, I interviewed that dude. Check out my YouTube channel. But no, I really believe in you, and I think you got what it takes. You're doing an amazing job. But what is that next vision for you? What's the ultimate goal for you?
So the ultimate goal is waking up every morning, getting a great workout in, spending some time with my wife and kids, and then going to the studio, directing major motion pictures, whether it's like the next Avengers or these films or the next Joker, that's these Oscar-winning films, and going and producing like the biggest, best films in the world, and just showing up every day and like committing to it and living that lifestyle as, I don't really think of it as being like, like a movie star, but I think of it as like one of the best directors to ever do it, winning multiple Oscars, multiple awards, but really like helping so many other people through that and like creating an experience for a lot of people watching. But yeah, that's it. Like being in, Universal Studios directing the next Avengers movie or these major feature films with $250 million budgets, $500 million budgets. But because again, like what you're saying, like because I'm so organized with it, they trust me with that responsibility. And I credit you so much because you're like, oh, Paul, like you're somebody I would invest in. I'm like, well, I'm somebody you would invest in because I'm listening to your content and I'm learning from you. So it's like this really interesting, like circle of everything. And I definitely credit that to it a lot. So that's the vision is just making like the biggest, best films in the world.
It's awesome, man. Well, I'm really, really proud of you. How can our audience, because I'm sure, people are going to want to follow you. So give us any websites that you might have, any, of content that we can get from you. So how do we follow you if we want to follow you?
Absolutely. So two of the best ways would be one, Instagram. You can follow me at Paul J. Kruger, PaulJKrueger. Or you can subscribe to my YouTube page, which is Paul Kruger, PaulKrueger. You'll see a nice picture. A nice little picture of this face, nice headshot. And feel free to subscribe to my channel, watch my movies, see any of the other work I do, some of the photography I do on Instagram as well. And yeah, that's the best place. And just send me a DM if you want to come to LA and be a movie star.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. So you guys, all that are watching and listening, you make sure you follow Paul. Make sure you watch his videos, make sure you consume his content, and just look out for this guy, because you all are going to be excited one day to see that this guy is one of the most amazing, filmmakers in the world. And we're going to all be able to say that we met him first before that moment happened. And but we're excited for you, and we're always rooting for you, man. We're praying for you, and we wish you all the best in your life. So with that said, everybody, make sure that you dream bigger than ever, but don't hesitate to make sure you do it now. God bless you. We'll see you at the top.